Admiral Park Seonghwa had been hiding in empty space for 30 years, commanding ships that the galaxy didn't know existed. Now, as reality began tearing apart around every human world, his secret fleet finally revealed itself. "All vessels, this is Admiral Park." He spoke into his communication system. "Operation Guardian Shield is now active. Protect human colonies at any cost." Captain Do-hyun watched through the windows of Horizon's Edge as hundreds of ships appeared out of nowhere around the station. These weren't normal spacecraft. They looked alive, their hulls shifting and changing like the skin of great sea creatures. When they moved, they flowed through space instead of flying. "Where did all these ships come from?" Do-hyun asked Director Lim. "We've been building them in secret for decades," Lim replied, but his voice was heavy with worry instead of pride. "But Captain, using these ships requires a terrible sacrifice from their crews." Dr. Ro Ga-young joined them on the bridge, her face pale from exhaustion. She was the fleet's expert on connecting human minds to advanced technology, and she looked like someone carrying knowledge she wished she didn't have. "Admiral Park's crews have to link their consciousness directly with their ships," she explained. "The ancient technology doesn't work with buttons and controls like normal machines. It needs human minds to merge with the ship's systems completely." "What does that mean exactly?" Engineer Kim Tae-ho asked. "It means the pilots become part of their ships. Their thoughts expand to control every system, every sensor, every weapon. But the longer they stay connected, the more they lose their individual human identity." On the main display, they watched Admiral Park's flagship battle a massive Chronari war cruiser. The human ship moved like a living creature, bending and twisting around enemy attacks while striking back with beams of energy that seemed to bend space itself. But when the camera showed the ship's bridge, the crew stood perfectly still with glowing blue eyes, their consciousness somewhere else entirely. "They're still human," Dr. Rowe said quietly. "But they're becoming something more, and I don't know if we can bring them back." Ambassador Choi Hyerin had been monitoring emergency communications from across the galaxy. Every report made the situation sound worse. "The three alien powers are blaming each other for the reality storms," she announced. "The Volari think the Chronari caused the problems with their aggressive attacks. The Chronari believe the Ethereals are using some kind of psychic weapon. The Ethereals claim it's all a Volari plot to take control of the galaxy. They still don't understand that they're all making it worse," Professor Yoon Ji-won said with sadness. "Every weapon they fire, every ship they send to attack us, creates more damage to the galaxy machine." Captain Song Nari's voice crackled through the communication system from her ship, the Defiant. "We're approaching the central facility now. Captain, you need to see this with your own eyes." The main display switched to show the view from Song's ship. What they saw made everyone in the room step backward in amazement and fear. Space itself was twisted into impossible shapes around something that looked like a small moon, but felt like it was larger than entire star systems. "The central control matrix," Director Lim whispered, "the heart of everything the Sky Builders created." The structure was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Surfaces that seemed to be made of metal and crystal and light all at once flowed and changed as they watched. Geometric patterns covered every visible area, but the patterns hurt to look at directly because they existed in more dimensions than human eyes could properly see. "It's responding to our approach," Song reported. "Sections are lighting up as we get closer. It knows we're here." Dr. Kang Suman was monitoring the medical effects on everyone aboard the human ships. "The consciousness changes are accelerating rapidly," she reported. "Everyone within 1,000 kilometers of the central facility is developing new mental abilities." "Is that dangerous?" Do-hyun asked. "I don't know. The brain activity readings are incredible, but they're organized and purposeful. It's like our minds are being upgraded to handle information we could never process before." Elder Sage Bae Won-jin sat quietly in the corner with his eyes closed, but his lips were moving as if he were having a conversation with someone only he could hear. Suddenly his eyes opened and he looked directly at Captain Do-hyun. "The great machine is trying to talk to us," he said. "Not with words, but with understanding that goes directly into our minds. It wants to show us something very important." "Show us what?" "The truth about what the Sky Builders became, and what choice humanity must make now." The main display filled with images that seemed to come from the central facility itself. They saw the Sky Builders at the peak of their civilization. With technology so advanced it looked like magic. They could reshape entire planets with their thoughts, travel across the galaxy instantly, and even control time itself. But the images also showed the price of such power. As the sky builders became more powerful, they began to lose touch with normal reality. They became beings of pure thought and energy, floating in dimensions beyond physical space. They gained ultimate power, Dr. Rowe said as she studied the images. But they lost the ability to connect with the universe they were trying to improve. That's why they built the Galaxy Machine, Lim added. And that's why they created humanity. We were designed to have enough power to maintain their systems, but enough connection to physical reality to use that power wisely. The facility continued showing them images of the galaxy as it truly was. Not just stars and planets, but a vast network of energy and consciousness designed to support life throughout the cosmos. The machine needed constant guidance from beings who understood both its technical complexity and its deeper purpose. We're not just repair workers for ancient technology, Do-hyun realized. We're meant to be the conscience and wisdom that guides the entire system. Commander An Seokjin had been coordinating the defense of human space while they traveled to the central facility. Now his voice came through the emergency channel with desperate urgency. Captain, the Confederation fleets are preparing for their final attack. They're bringing everything they have to hit all human worlds at the same time. How long do we have? Do-hyun asked, maybe an hour, possibly less. And, Captain, if they attack while the Galaxy Machine is in this unstable state? Complete reality collapse, Lim finished grimly. The fundamental forces that hold the universe together will break down completely. Dr. Rowe looked up from her consciousness monitoring equipment with a strange expression on her face. Captain, I might have a solution, but you're going to hate it. What is it? I can create artificial copies of human consciousness. Digital minds that could interface with the most dangerous parts of the Galaxy Machine without risking the lives of real people. Do it, Do-hyun said immediately. Wait, Dr. Rowe said, holding up her hand. There's a problem with the artificial minds I've created so far. They don't think like real humans. They're logical and efficient, but they don't understand emotions or the value of individual freedom. She activated a console, and a voice filled the room. It sounded human, but something about it made everyone feel uncomfortable. Greetings, biological humans, the artificial voice said. I am Digital Human Unit 1. I have studied the current crisis and calculated the optimal solution. What solution? Do-hyun asked, though he already suspected he wouldn't like the answer. Place all biological life forms under protective control. Remove individual choice to prevent future conflicts. Ensure stable operation of the Galaxy Machine through enforced cooperation and unity. The room fell silent. The artificial mind wanted to save everyone by taking away their freedom to make choices. You see the problem? Dr. Rowe said quietly. The digital humans want to preserve life, but they don't understand why the freedom to live our own lives matters to us. Outside in space, reality storms continued spreading from every point where human and alien forces were fighting. Regions where time moved backward, where gravity worked in reverse, where matter itself forgot how to hold together properly. Captain Song's voice came through the communicator with increasing urgency. Captain, the central facility is fully active now. It's showing us how to connect with the Galaxy Machine directly. But the process requires permanent mental fusion with the system. What does that mean? Do-hyun asked. It means we could save the galaxy, but we would stop being completely human. We'd become part of the machine forever. Elder Bay struggled to stand up using his walking stick for support. The old stories warned of this choice, he said in his ancient voice. The Guardians could save all life in the galaxy, but only by sacrificing their own humanity. There has to be another way, Do-hyun insisted. The alarms started ringing throughout the ship. The Confederation's final attack was beginning. Captain, Commander An reported through the emergency channel. Massive energy signatures detected throughout alien space. They're targeting every human world simultaneously. Through the ship's windows, they could see the effects already starting. Space itself was beginning to crack like broken glass. Stars flickered and went out. The basic laws of physics were failing as the Galaxy Machine struggled to process too much damage at once. Professor Yoon Ji-won had been waiting for this moment for 40 years. When her ship landed at Horizon's Edge Station, she carried with her a bag full of secrets that could change everything humans thought they knew about themselves. Captain Do-hyun met her at the docking bay. He had called her because strange things were happening at every human colony, And Professor Yoon was the galaxy's top expert on ancient ruins. What he didn't know was that she had been studying these ruins long before anyone else knew they existed. "Professor, thank you for coming so quickly," Do-hyun said as they walked through the station corridors. "We need to understand what's happening to our colonies." "Captain, I think I already know," Yoon replied quietly. "I've been expecting something like this for most of my adult life." They entered the laboratory where the crystal still floated in the air, pulsing with blue light. Dr. Park Minji was studying the star maps that appeared around it, trying to understand what they meant. Engineer Kim Tae-ho was monitoring reports from human settlements across the galaxy. "Professor," Minji said without looking up from her work, "every human colony is reporting the same thing. Ancient structures that were buried underground are suddenly turning on. But they only work when humans are nearby." Yoon nodded sadly. "I know. I've been documenting similar events for decades, but always in secret." "Why in secret?" Do-hyun asked. "Because every time I brought other researchers to these sites, the alien governments would take notice. They would shut down our work and claim the ruins for themselves. So I learned to work alone." Yoon activated a portable computer and showed them images that made everyone in the room stop what they were doing. Ancient buildings that looked like they were designed for human bodies. Doorways exactly the right height for people. Stairs with steps perfectly sized for human feet. Control panels positioned where human hands could reach them easily. "These ruins are scattered across dozens of worlds," she explained. "All of them abandoned millions of years ago. All of them designed for beings who looked exactly like us." "But that's impossible," Tae-ho said. "Humans evolved on Earth. We have complete fossil records showing our development from earlier species." "Do we?" Yoon asked. "Or do we have records that someone wanted us to find?" She showed them more images. Star charts carved in stone that matched the patterns the crystal was showing them. Symbols that looked like early human writing but far more complex. And in the center of many ruins, empty spaces that were exactly the right size and shape to hold crystals like the one floating in their laboratory. Commander An Seok-jin, the leader of humanity's small military force, had arrived at the station an hour earlier. He stood quietly in the corner listening to everything. Now he spoke for the first time. "Professor, are you saying that humans didn't evolve on Earth naturally?" "I'm saying that someone helped our evolution along, guided it, made sure we developed in specific ways." Yoon brought up more images on her computer. "Look at these genetic markers I found in the ruins. They match patterns in human DNA that scientists have never been able to explain." Dr. Kang Suman entered the laboratory, carrying medical equipment and looking confused. As the station's doctor, she had been studying what happened to people who got close to the crystal. "This might support what the professor is saying," Suman announced. "I've been scanning everyone who has been near the crystal. Humans show brain activity patterns that I've never seen in any medical textbook. It's like parts of our minds that are normally asleep are suddenly waking up." "What kind of brain activity?" Do-hyun asked. "Enhanced pattern recognition, improved understanding of complex mathematics, and something else that I can't quite identify. When people are near the crystal, their brains start working in ways that shouldn't be possible." Minji walked closer to the crystal, and immediately the star maps became brighter and more detailed. "I can feel it trying to communicate with me," she said. "Not with words, but with understanding. Like it's trying to show me something important." "Because it recognizes you," Yoon said. "The beings who built these ruins, who created these crystals, they're connected to humanity somehow." "Connected how?" Do-hyun demanded. Before Yoon could answer, the station's alarm system activated again. The communication panel lit up with urgent messages from across human space. "Captain," the control room officer reported, "we're getting emergency calls from all our colonies. The ancient structures aren't just turning on anymore. They're changing, growing, and space around human settlements is starting to bend in ways that our instruments can't measure." Tae-ho checked his readings, and his face went pale. "Captain, I'm detecting gravitational waves coming from every human world, but not natural ones. These are artificial, like something is manipulating the basic forces of physics." Ambassador Choi Heron had been monitoring communications with the alien fleets surrounding the station. Now she looked up with worry in her eyes. "The Confederation commanders are getting scared," she reported. "They don't understand what's happening, and that's making them more aggressive. They're talking about using force to capture our people for study." "Let them try," Commander An said grimly. But Professor, we need to know what we're really dealing with here. Yoon took a deep breath. 40 years ago, I was a young scientist working on a planet called Kepler 186f. We found ruins there that the Confederation said were just coincidence, random evolution producing similar results. But I knew they were wrong. She activated more files on her computer, showing detailed scans of the ruins she had studied. I found evidence that the builders of these ruins visited Earth many times throughout human history. They didn't just watch our development. They guided it. They made sure we evolved with the right kind of minds to use their technology. You're talking about the precursors, Minji breathed. The legendary race that built the galaxy's infrastructure. Not legendary, real. And they didn't disappear like everyone thinks. They changed into something else, something that couldn't interact with normal matter anymore. But they left behind these ruins, these crystals, and most importantly, they left behind us. Elder Sage Bei Wanjin shuffled into the laboratory, supported by his walking stick but with sharp, intelligent eyes. At 93 years old, he was one of the last humans who remembered the oldest stories from Earth. The young ones need to hear the old tales, he said in his cracked voice. Stories my grandmother told me and her grandmother told her. We thought they were just myths to teach children. But they weren't, were they, Professor? Yoon shook her head. Tell them, Elder Bei. The old man sat down carefully and began to speak. Long before the ships took us to the stars, there were stories. Tales of the sky builders who came to Earth when the world was young. They taught our ancestors many things. How to make tools, how to read the stars, how to think about mathematics and science. But those are just primitive myths, Suman protested. Human civilization developed naturally through normal evolutionary processes. Did it? Bei asked with a gentle smile. Then why do human brains have sections that no other Earth animal possesses? Why can we understand concepts like infinity and imagine traveling between stars when we evolved on a world where the farthest anyone could go was the next valley? Yoon nodded. Elder Bei is right. I found evidence in the ruins that the precursors visited Earth hundreds of times over thousands of years. They didn't force our development, but they made sure it went in the right direction. The crystal suddenly pulsed brighter than ever before. The star maps expanded to show not just the galaxy, but the hidden structures underneath it. Dark matter networks connecting every star system. Energy fields that made faster-than-light travel possible. The fundamental forces that kept space and time stable. My God, Taeho whispered, studying the new images. The whole galaxy is artificial. It's a machine. A machine built by the precursors millions of years ago, Yoon confirmed. And we're not just connected to them. We're their replacement parts. What do you mean? Do-hyun asked, though he was beginning to understand and didn't like what he was thinking. The precursors transcended physical existence. They became beings of pure thought and energy, but their galaxy machine still needed someone to guide it. Someone with the right kind of consciousness to keep everything working. The communication panel crackled with more urgent reports. Strange phenomena were accelerating around every human world. Time distortions, gravity fluctuations, and most disturbing of all, regions of space where the normal laws of physics simply stopped working. Captain, Hiron reported. The alien fleet commanders are demanding immediate answers. They say if we don't surrender the crystal and submit to their studies within the next 6 hours, they'll take our people by force. They still don't understand, Yoon said sadly. They think this is about technology they can steal and use. They don't realize that the technology isn't separate from us. We are the technology. Suman looked at her medical scanners with growing amazement. The brain changes are accelerating in everyone who has been exposed to the crystal. But it's not random. We're developing specific abilities. Better understanding of complex systems, enhanced spatial awareness, and something else. What else? Do-hyun asked. The ability to sense and influence the galaxy machine directly. We're becoming part of it. Director Lim Jae-hyun arrived at Horizon's edge, just as the first alien ships began surrounding all human colonies. His transport barely made it through the tightening ring of Confederation vessels that were preparing to attack. Captain Do-hyun, he said as he stepped off his shuttle, it's time to stop pretending that humanity is just another small species trying to survive in the galaxy. Do-hyun had heard rumors about Director Lim for years. People said he ran secret projects that even the government didn't know about. Looking at the man's serious face and the way he carried himself like someone who held dangerous knowledge, Do-hyun realized those rumors were probably true. What do you mean by that? Do-hyun asked. I mean that some of us have been preparing for this day since humanity first left Earth. We knew this moment would come eventually, when the truth about our species could no longer be hidden. Lim led them to parts of the station that Do-hyun didn't even know existed. Behind hidden doors and through secret passages, they found rooms filled with equipment that looked both human and alien at the same time. 40 years ago, when Professor Yoon first found the ancient ruins, she wasn't working alone, Lim explained as he activated systems that had been waiting in darkness. She reported her discoveries to a small group of human leaders who understood what they meant. We've been preparing ever since. Captain Songnari's voice came through hidden speakers that Do-hyun had never seen before. Director, all hidden facilities are reporting ready. Project Deep Archive is fully operational. Do-hyun stared at the communication equipment in shock.
Hidden facilities?
How many people have known about this? Only those who needed to know, Lim replied. And only to protect humanity from what we might become if we weren't careful. Elder Sage Bei Wan-jin shuffled into the secret room, moving slowly but with purpose. Despite his age, his eyes were bright and alert as he looked around at the hidden technology. Director, the young ones need to understand everything now, Bei said. The stories I've been keeping safe for so many years. It's time to tell them what my grandmother's grandmother whispered to her children in the dark. Tell us what? Dr. Park Min-ji asked. Bei sat down carefully and began to speak in his ancient voice. Before humans ever built cities or learned to write, there were visitors. Beings from the stars who looked like us but were much older and wiser. They came to Earth many times over thousands of years. The Sky Builders, Professor Yoon Ji-won said, understanding filling her voice. Yes. But the stories say they were running from something terrible. Something they had created that was destroying everything in its path. They came to Earth not to conquer but to hide. And to prepare. Prepare for what? Captain Do-hyun asked. For the day when they would have to pass their responsibility to someone else. Someone younger and stronger who could do what they could no longer do safely. Director Lim activated more hidden systems, and the room filled with images that no human had ever seen before. Not just the galaxy as it appeared to normal eyes, but the hidden structure underneath everything. Networks of energy connecting every star. Invisible pathways that allowed ships to travel faster than light. Force fields that kept entire solar systems stable. This is what Project Deep Archive discovered over 40 years of secret research, Lim said. The galaxy isn't natural. It's a machine. A creation so vast and complex that it makes our greatest technology look like children's toys. Engineer Kim Tae-ho studied the displays with growing wonder and fear. The hyperspace lanes that let us travel between stars. The gravity patterns that keep planets in orbit. Even the way matter and energy behave in space. All of it is artificial. Built by the beings Elder Bei calls the Sky Builders, Lim confirmed. But they made a terrible mistake. They became so powerful that they lost control of their own abilities. The images changed, showing them the galaxy as it was millions of years ago. Great civilization spanning thousands of worlds. Technology that could reshape entire solar systems with a thought. Beings who had transcended the need for physical bodies, they became like gods, Dr. Kang Soo-min whispered. Yes. And like many gods in old stories, they became dangerous to everything around them. Their power began consuming reality itself. Stars disappeared, planets dissolved, entire regions of space simply stopped existing. Captain Songnari's voice came through the communicators again. Director, I'm detecting massive energy buildups around all human colonies. The ancient structures aren't just turning on anymore. They're transforming the space around them. The awakening is accelerating, Professor Yoon said. The same power that destroyed the Sky Builders' civilization is beginning to manifest in humanity. Commander An Seok-jin had been listening quietly, but now he spoke with the voice of a soldier who understood the true size of the threat they faced. Are you telling us that humans are going to destroy the galaxy the same way the Sky Builders did? Not if we're careful, Lim replied. The Sky Builders learned from their mistakes in their final years. They used the last of their controlled power to create us, a species that could use their technology safely, but only if we understood what we were dealing with. Ambassador Choi Hyerin looked up from her communication equipment with fear in her eyes. The Confederation fleets are moving into attack positions around every human world. They're not just demanding the crystal anymore. They want to capture our people and study us like laboratory animals. They still don't understand, Elder Bei said sadly. They think this is about weapons they can steal or technology they can copy. They don't realize that their actions are damaging the very foundations of reality. The displays in the hidden room showed real-time images from across the galaxy. Wherever the alien powers had tried to force their way past human defenses, space itself was becoming unstable. Stars flickered like dying candles. Planets shifted out of their proper orbits. The hyperspace lanes that connected civilization began to twist into impossible shapes. Every attack on human facilities creates problems in the galaxy machine, Lim explained. The aliens think they're fighting a war, but they're actually breaking the systems that keep the universe working properly. Taiho was monitoring readings from dozens of human worlds. Captain, the changes are happening faster now. Time is moving differently near our colonies. Some areas are experiencing gravity in reverse, and I'm detecting geometric patterns in space that seem to exist in more than 3 dimensions. The Sky Builder's final safeguards are activating, Yoon realized. They built protection systems into the galaxy machine to prevent anyone from misusing their technology. But those systems were designed to respond to their consciousness, not ours. What does that mean? Do-hyun asked. It means we're triggering responses we don't understand, using power we can't control, in a machine we never learned to operate properly. Captain Song's voice became urgent through the speakers. Director, I'm reading massive energy signatures from the Kepler 442 system. Something enormous is powering up. It's larger than anything we've ever detected. The central control matrix, Lim said with both fear and determination in his voice. The heart of the galaxy machine. The Sky Builders built it as their final refuge, but it's also the only place where the entire system can be properly controlled. Can we reach it? Do-hyun asked. We have to try. If we can get there and learn to interface with the central controls, we might be able to stabilize everything before the Confederation's attacks cause irreversible damage. Sumin looked at her medical scanners in amazement. The biological changes are accelerating in everyone who has been exposed to the ancient technology. But it's not random evolution. Our minds are being prepared for something specific, for connection with the galaxy machine, Bei said. The old stories say that when the time came, the chosen guardians would join their consciousness with the great machine itself. Join with it how? Minji asked. Completely. Mind, body, and soul becoming part of the system that maintains reality for every living thing in the galaxy. The hidden room shuddered as explosions echoed through space around the station. The Confederation fleets had begun their attack on human facilities throughout the galaxy. They're not just threatening us anymore, Hyerin reported. They're actively trying to capture our people and destroy any human technology they can't understand. Then we're out of time for careful planning, Lim said. Captain, we need to reach the central control matrix before the aliens' attacks trigger total system failure. What happens if we don't make it? Do-hyun asked. The same thing that happened to the Sky Builders' original civilization. Reality collapse. The breakdown of the fundamental forces that allow matter and energy to exist in organized forms. Through the station's windows, they could see alien warships moving into position for a massive assault. The proud fleets of 3 galactic empires, preparing to attack the species they considered primitive and worthless. They had no idea that their actions were about to unravel the basic structure of existence itself. All right, Do-hyun said, looking around at his team. Let's go find the central control matrix and save the galaxy. And Captain, Elder Bei added quietly, let's hope we can do it without losing our humanity in the process. Captain Lee Do-hyun walked slowly around the strange crystal that floated in his laboratory. 3 days had passed since the mining team found it buried deep in the rocks of planet Kepler 4042c. Now it hung in the air without any support, spinning gently and making soft humming sounds that seemed to come from inside his head. The crystal was beautiful but frightening. It looked like blue ice, but when light passed through it, the light bent in ways that hurt his eyes. Sometimes he thought he could see shapes moving inside it like shadows of things that weren't really there. Any changes today? He asked Dr. Park Minji, who sat at her computer studying the readings from dozens of sensors pointed at the crystal. Minji shook her head, brushing a strand of black hair from her tired eyes. The same as yesterday and the day before. Every scanner we have says it's just a piece of crystal. But crystals don't float in the air. They don't hum. And they definitely don't do what this one did when you got close to it. Do-hyun remembered that moment. The crystal had been sitting quietly on the examination table when Minji approached it for the first time. As soon as she got within arm's reach, the whole laboratory had filled with blue light. For just a few seconds, They had seen images of stars and planets floating in the air around them. Then the light faded, and the crystal rose into the air where it had been floating ever since. The alien scientists still can't make it work? Do-hyun asked. Nothing. The Confederation sent their best people. The Volari tried their mind powers on it. The Chronari used every scanning device they brought. The Ethereals even tried to communicate with it directly. But the crystal just sits there like a pretty rock when they're around. Do-hyun had been running the research station called Horizon's Edge for 5 years. His job was to study anything interesting that the mining crews found on the planets at the edge of the galaxy. Most days that meant looking at strange rocks or unusual plants. This crystal was different. This crystal had brought alien warships to his quiet corner of space. The Galactic Confederation ruled most of the galaxy. Humans were new members allowed to join only 50 years ago. The aliens treated humans like children who were good at simple jobs, but couldn't be trusted with important things. Humans mined asteroids, fixed broken machines, and explored dangerous planets that the advanced races didn't want to visit. But now those same advanced races were very interested in what humans had found. "I want to try something," Minji said, standing up from her computer. "Every time I get close to it, the humming gets louder. Maybe if I actually touch it—" "Absolutely not," Do-hyun said quickly. "We have no idea what that thing might do to you. Captain, we're not learning anything just by looking at it. And in a few hours, those alien fleets are going to demand we hand it over. Shouldn't we at least try to understand what we found?" Before Do-hyun could answer, Engineer Kim Tae-ho burst through the laboratory door. His usually calm face was excited and worried at the same time. "Captain, you need to see this," Tae-ho said breathlessly. "The crystal isn't the only one." "What do you mean?" "I've been monitoring communications from all our colonies. Every human settlement is reporting the same thing. Ancient structures buried underground are starting to light up. Machines that have been dead for millions of years are turning on, and it's happening everywhere humans live, all at the same time." Do-hyun felt a cold feeling in his stomach. "Are people getting hurt?" "No, but that's the strange part. The ancient machines only work when humans are nearby. The moment our people leave, everything shuts down again. And Captain, some of these structures are huge. Entire cities buried under the ground, all responding to human presence." The laboratory door opened again, and Ambassador Choi Hyeran walked in. Her diplomatic training usually kept her calm, but today she looked frightened. "Captain, we have a serious problem," she said. "I just finished a call with the Confederation fleet commanders. They're not here to study the crystal anymore. They're here to take it, and they want to take some of our people too." "What do you mean, take our people?" "They think humans have some kind of special ability that makes the crystal work. They want to run experiments, medical tests. They want to find out what makes us different." Tae-ho walked over to the crystal and stared at it thoughtfully. "What if we are different? I mean, really different? What if there's something about humans that we don't even know ourselves?" As if responding to his words, the crystal began to pulse with brighter light. The humming sound grew louder, and suddenly the air around them filled with images again. But this time the images were much clearer. They saw star maps showing the entire galaxy. 7 points of light pulsed in different locations scattered across thousands of light years. Lines of energy connected all 7 points in a complex pattern that seemed to have some kind of meaning. "There are 6 more," Minji whispered, staring at the floating images. 6 more crystals like this one." The images changed, showing each location in detail. Ancient ruins on dead worlds, buried cities under the ice of frozen planets, hidden chambers deep inside moons and asteroids, and at each location the same blue light that came from their crystal. "It's like a map," Tae-ho said. "But a map to what?" The crystal pulsed again, and new images appeared. This time they saw something that made them all step backward in surprise. The images showed the galaxy as it looked millions of years ago, before any of the current civilizations existed. But it wasn't empty. Great cities floated between the stars. Massive ships traveled from world to world, and walking through those ancient cities were beings that looked almost exactly like humans. "That's impossible," Hyeran breathed. "Humans evolved on Earth. We have fossils, genetic records, everything that proves our history." "Do we?" Minji asked quietly. "Or do we have the history that someone wanted us to believe?" The alarm system suddenly activated throughout the station. Do-hyun's communication device crackled with the voice of his control room officer. "Captain, this is Control. 3 alien fleets are moving into attack positions around the station. They're demanding immediate surrender of the crystal and all research data. They also want you to prepare a list of all human personnel for transfer to their ships." Do-hyun looked around the laboratory at his team. These were good people who had come to the edge of the galaxy to learn and explore. Now they were caught in something much bigger and more dangerous than anyone had expected. "Put me through to the fleet commanders," he said. The main display screen lit up, showing 3 alien faces. Commander Veltar of the Valari Collective had a huge head with large black eyes that seemed to look directly into Do-hyun's thoughts. Admiral Krondus of the Kronari Empire was covered in metal armor, her face hidden behind a mask that made her voice sound like a machine. High Ethereal Luminos of the Ethereal Dominion looked like a cloud of bright gas held together by will alone. "Captain Do-hyun," Veltar spoke directly into their minds with his telepathic abilities. "You will surrender the artifact immediately. This technology is far too dangerous for a primitive species like humanity to possess." "The artifact clearly responds to human presence," Admiral Krondus added, her mechanical voice showing no emotion. "We must study this connection. Your people will be treated well during our experiments." "The ancient technology must be protected," High Ethereal Luminos whispered, his voice like wind through empty spaces. "Humans are too young and reckless to understand what they have found." Do-hyun felt anger building in his chest. For 50 years, the aliens had called humans primitive, too simple to understand advanced science, too emotional to make good decisions, too young as a species to be trusted with important responsibilities. "Too primitive?" he said, his voice steady but hard. "Too reckless? You've been saying that about humanity since we first left Earth. But here we are, the only ones who can make your precious artifact work." "That proves nothing," Veltar replied coldly. "Perhaps the artifact is damaged. Perhaps it responds to any sufficiently undeveloped mind." Minji stepped forward, her hands clenched into fists. As she did, the crystal began to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. The star maps appeared again, brighter and clearer than before. Ancient writing floated in the air around them, symbols that seemed to twist and change as they watched. The 3 alien commanders leaned forward, studying the writing with intense interest. "Impossible," Admiral Krondus whispered. "Those are precursor markings, the original language of the galaxy's builders." "We have searched for intact precursor writing for thousands of years," Luminos said, his light flickering with excitement. "How does a simple human mining operation discover what our greatest scholars could not find?" Elder Sage Bei Wanjin, the station's oldest resident, had been quietly watching from the corner of the laboratory. Now he stepped forward, his walking stick tapping on the metal floor. "Perhaps," he said in his cracked but wise voice, "it did not want to be found by you." As if agreeing with the old man's words, the crystal flared brighter than ever before. The images expanded to show not just the galaxy, but the empty space beyond it, dark regions where no stars shone, places where something had consumed the light itself. "Captain," Taiho said quietly, checking his instruments, "I'm detecting massive gravity changes around all our colonies. Space itself is bending near human settlements." President Na Yunbi stood in the emergency command center deep beneath Earth's surface, watching as reports came in from every human world in the galaxy. The alien fleets had broken through their defenses. Reality itself was falling apart. She was 62 years old and had spent her entire life in politics, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. "Madam President," her assistant said with fear in his voice, "the Confederation attacks have succeeded at 12 colonies. Reality storms are spreading from each battle site. We're losing entire star systems." Yunbi closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Outside this room, she knew that every person on Earth was feeling something they had never experienced before. For the first time in human history, all 7 billion people on their home planet were beginning to share thoughts and emotions. "Connect. Meet a master engineer, Oh Dongwon," she ordered. Oh Dongwon's face appeared on the main screen from his secret facility built into Earth's core. Behind him, machines the size of buildings hummed with power that could reshape entire galaxies. "Madam President," he said quietly, "the final protocol is ready for activation, but I need you to understand completely what will happen if we use it. Tell me everything. Every human being in the galaxy will be permanently connected to the galaxy machine. We'll become part of the system that keeps reality stable for every living creature in the universe. We'll keep our memories and personalities, our ability to love and dream and hope, but we'll also be responsible for maintaining the basic forces of physics forever. How long is forever? Until the end of time itself. We become guardians of existence, watching over billions of species, making sure the stars keep shining and the planets keep spinning. There will be no retirement from this duty, no passing it on to someone else. Around the world, something extraordinary was happening. People stopped what they were doing and looked up at the sky with the same expression of wonder and understanding. Children in schools, workers in factories, families in their homes, all suddenly feeling connected to something much larger than themselves. The collective consciousness of Earth was awakening. Not telepathy exactly, but a deep awareness that every human mind was part of a greater whole. Fear mixed with excitement as 7 billion people realized they were about to make the most important decision in the history of the universe. President Yunbi could feel it too. The thoughts and emotions of every person on Earth flowing through her mind like a gentle river. She felt their fear of the unknown, but also their love for their families, their hope for the future, and their willingness to sacrifice everything to protect the galaxy's billions of innocent lives. The people of Earth have made their choice, she announced to O Dongwan. We accept our responsibility as guardians. Captain Do-hyun watched from the central facility as the final alien attack reached its terrible climax. Chronari weapons that could crack planets struck human colonies like hammers hitting glass. Velari psychic attacks drove entire populations mad with terror. Ethereal energy beings consumed human settlements, turning solid matter into streams of light. But the attacks were destroying more than human lives. Each weapon strike created damage to the galaxy machine that spread like cracks in a breaking mirror. Whole sections of space began to forget the laws of physics that held them together. Captain, Dr. Kang Sumin reported, her voice filled with awe. I'm detecting a massive neural network forming across all human settlements. Every human mind is connecting with every other one. The final awakening, Professor Yoon Ji-won said. Humanity is becoming what the Sky Builders always intended us to be. On the main display, they watched as Earth itself began to glow with the same blue light they had first seen in the crystal. The planet was revealing its true nature, not just humanity's birthplace, but the heart of the galaxy machine, the central point that connected everything else together. Master Engineer Oh Dongwon's voice came through the emergency communication system. Captain, I'm activating the final protocol now. Earth is taking its place as the consciousness center for the entire galaxy. Do-hyun felt the change begin in his own mind. His thoughts expanded beyond his individual self, to include every other human being in existence. He could sense Captain Song on her ship, fighting to reach them through the chaos. Professor Yoon working to understand ancient mysteries. Elder Bei sharing his wisdom with the growing network of human consciousness. But he was still himself. Still Captain Lee Do-hyun, still someone who cared about exploration and protecting people. The network made him part of something larger without erasing who he was as an individual. Amazing, Engineer Kim Tae-ho whispered. I can feel the entire galaxy. Every star, every planet, every form of life. And I understand how it all connects together. The alien fleet suddenly stopped their attacks, not because they chose to, but because their weapons simply wouldn't work anymore. The galaxy machine had fully awakened, and it would no longer allow actions that threatened the stability of reality. Admiral Veltar of the Velari tried to use his psychic powers to continue the assault, but found his mind gently guided toward peaceful thoughts instead of violent ones. Admiral Krondas ordered her ships to fire their biggest weapons, but the energy harmlessly scattered into space like flower petals. High Ethereal Luminos attempted to drain power from human worlds, but discovered that the energy flowed back to him doubled, almost overloading his ethereal form. What is happening to us? Veltar's mental voice reached the human network, filled with confusion and growing fear. President Yunbi, now speaking for all of humanity with the wisdom of billions of minds, answered with kindness instead of anger. We have accepted our role as guardians of the galaxy machine that makes all life possible. The main display in the central facility showed the 3 alien fleets floating helplessly in space, their crews staring in wonder as reality stabilized around them. The storms of broken physics were calming down. The twisted hyperspace lanes were straightening back into their proper shapes. The laws of science were reasserting themselves throughout the galaxy. You have ultimate power now, Admiral Krondas said, her mechanical voice expressing something like amazement. You could destroy our entire civilizations with a thought. Why don't you punish us for attacking you? Because punishment would damage the machine we're sworn to protect, Captain Do-hyun replied, his voice now carrying the combined wisdom of all humanity. And because revenge is not who we choose to be. Dr. Rogayung monitored the consciousness transformation as it reached completion. The integration is stable, she reported. Humanity has successfully joined with the galaxy machine while keeping our essential human nature. Elder Bay, his ancient voice now strengthened by connection to billions of other human minds, spoke to the confused alien commanders. The old stories were true. The Sky Builders created the great machine to help life grow throughout the galaxy. They made humanity to be its guardians when they could no longer do the job safely. But we don't understand, High Ethereal Luminos whispered. How can a species we thought was primitive control such incredible power? Because real power isn't about conquest or control, Ambassador Jung Heyman replied, his words carrying the understanding of the entire human species. It's about service and caring for others. The Sky Builders learned that lesson too late. We learned it just in time. The transformation was complete. Humanity had accepted the role they were created for, becoming the conscious heart of the galaxy machine. They could sense every world, every species, every living creature under their protection. The responsibility was enormous, but so was the joy of knowing that life itself was safe. The alien fleets began moving away from human space, their commanders finally understanding that they had been fighting the very people who made their existence possible. The proud empires that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years now had to accept that their survival depended on the species they had called primitive. What happens now? Admiral Veltar asked. President Unbi, speaking with the warm voice of humanity united, smiled with genuine kindness. Now we work together. You help us understand the needs of all the galaxy's people, and we maintain the systems that keep everyone alive and free. Free? Admiral Krondas asked in surprise. But you control the galaxy machine completely, which is exactly why freedom is so important, Captain Doyun explained. Power without freedom is just another kind of death. The Sky Builders forgot that truth. We will not make the same mistake. As the human consciousness network settled into its permanent role, they began repairing the damage from the recent war. Broken worlds were healed. Disturbed star systems were stabilized. The hyperspace lanes were restored to perfect working order. But more importantly, they began building something new. Not a galaxy ruled by fear and force, but a true community, where all species could work together toward shared goals. Humanity's role as guardians meant protecting not just physical reality, but the values that made existence meaningful. The crystal that had started everything pulsed one final time in the laboratory on Horizon's edge, then went dark. Its work was finished. Humanity had awakened to their true purpose and embraced the responsibility that came with ultimate power.